I think I pushed that chip out of my body at this point in time. I don't have to worry about that lighting me on fire any longer. That was one of the worst experiences of my life. I will never, ever eat that again. At least not on purpose. Somebody slips it to me. It might be my only shot. Sal, would you ever eat that Pocky one chip? Would you ever do the one chip challenge?
I hate just spicy food in general, and that gets to me. So I can't even. I saw the reactions of yourself and Lofty, at least on camera. I can't even imagine what that would do. I think I would do it as bad as you even made it sound. Like in terms of like maybe thinking you were gonna die. I think I might do it in terms of how you did, like a bet. But no, I'm not just going out of my way today to go eat one.
Yeah, I don't blame you there. Honestly, the chip itself, the experience of having it in my mouth and like chewing it and like waiting for that, like that part stunk, but it wasn't like the worst thing in the world.
Did it have a taste?
I actually liked it was like one of the first things I said. I actually liked the taste of it while it was in my mouth for like the first 5 seconds. That all went away and then just lit me on fire. The real problem was definitely not preparing at all beforehand and not having anything in my stomach. That ruined me. Absolute ruining. I was legit scared that I was going to need to go and seek like medical attention or need like activated charcoal or something pumped into my body. It was bad. It was really bad.
Yeah, I mean, I can't even imagine just what it felt like if it, like I've heard like kidney stones get like grown men down to their knees to cry, and I can't imagine just like the feeling of how bad that was.
I really, really never want to do that again. That 90 minutes after the show was over was real rough. Once I got to Burger King and got a milkshake in my stomach, that was what I was good to go after that.
Yeah, damn.
But nobody's here to care at all about me eating that stupid chip and being in pain. We're here to talk fantasy basketball. This is the NBA DFS strategy show presented by Awesemo.com and presented by superdraft.io. Go to superdraft.io. Use the promo code Awesemo. Get yourself $10 in super cash on your first $100 deposit or more. It's the spot, man. I really like talking about it. I really like thinking through the theory of super draft, not having to worry about salaries, using just basically projections and trying to figure out, how often should you be using guys. I built a sim during one of my office hour sessions so that we could take a deeper look into the mechanics of super draft. If you want to check that out, you're going to need to be a premium sub at Awesemo. So go to awesemo.com/join. Use the promo code NBA strategy. One word. Get yourself 50% off your first week. Josh, why is your mic so echoey? Do I sound echoey to you?
Not on my end, no.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know. Weird. I mean, maybe because my office is really empty now. I might have to actually turn off the green screen effect. No more green screen in my office.
Really?
Yeah. We trying to sell this house, so we had the painters in yesterday, and they painted my office. So let's turn off that effect. You guys are just going to see a plain wall behind me. Boring, I know. Yeah, gonzo, right? No?
It went away for like a split second.
I don't know how to make it go away for longer than a split second, but I checked the box. It said, I have no green screen. No virtual back. I'm probably really bright now, huh? Probably looks like a hostage video. Yeah, we'll mess with that. We'll get into the goods now. Let's take a look at last night's slate. Tell me, Sal, how much Jalen Brunson did you have?
I had 0% Jalen Brunson because I didn't play the slate. So
perfect. Perfect. That's exactly what you're looking for on a day where someone comes out a minute into the game.
Yeah, I had him. I mean, if I would have had a lot of him. Like I had everything projected out, and I mean, he was highly owned, right? Like a third of the field had him or something like that.
He at least on FanDuel, I have the shot machine up from yesterday, $7.77 tournament on FanDuel. He was the 5th highest owned player at 33%. He got 0 fantasy points.
Yeah, that's not great. He got hurt. I saw immediately and then ruled out like literally 10 minutes later.
Yeah, that's so brutal. So brutal. I also did not play the slate, so didn't matter to me. Not a single bit.
Yeah, I have, PGA and XFL I was into yesterday. And then once the Luka news came out and just stuff started getting wonky, I just decided I really just didn't need to do that on my Saturday night.
No, not at all. I don't know. El Negro Loco is saying he had 2 points. He had 4 actual points. Nope, that can't be this game. For some reason, Fantasy Cruncher's box score isn't locked and loaded in here yet. But
for Brunson,
yeah,
I could pull it up.
They have 2 turnovers in that time too. He could have had 0. But what you really needed to do was have Maxey, 35.6 fantasy points, 61% owned, went for 9.4x. That's going to become pretty important.
Yep. Yeah, and then Seth Curry also went. I mean, he was priced up, but he ended up benefiting, right? 40 plus, I think, on DraftKings.
Seth Curry ended up with 38.7 on FanDuel. 2 guys went for 10x or higher. Do you know who they were?
10x or higher. One of them had to be Kendrick Nunn.
That would be correct. 11.6x, 46.4 fantasy points, 17.6%
owned. Garrett Temple?
Not Garrett Temple. He was 4th. The answer is Chetty Osman.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. 10.2x, 37.9 fantasy points at $3,700. Wow. Yuck.
He played 38. Wait, did that game go into overtime? He played 38 minutes?
I have no idea.
No, they got blown out by 19 in regulation. Wow.
6 of 15 from the field, 7 boards, 7 assists. Hell of a game, Chetty. Hell of a game. Winning lineup last night. Ricky Rubio, Kendrick Nunn, James Harden, Karis LeVert, Jay Crowder, Giannis Antetokounmpo, John Collins, Maxey, and Tristan Thompson. 22.9 at center, but the savings was all you needed. Allows them to get up to the double stud lineup of Harden and Giannis. Allows you to be $50,000 richer on a single bullet. A little jealous of that.
Yeah, before Luka got ruled out, I was like heavily trying to work in just like the Luka Giannis, Luka Harden combos. I want to see on these 6-game slates, I'm going to try and like look into it more, just how, like, I guess how much ROI and just how often those top lineups are those double studs when there's like only 3 of them.
I was surprised to see Giannis's ownership in relationship to, at least on FanDuel, in relationship to the other studs. Giannis at 65, Harden at 30, Westbrook at just 15, Trae Young only at 33, Joel Embiid at 15. I mean, positionality plays a big role in getting Giannis up at a small forward spot, but did surprise me a little bit to see that big of a gap.
Yeah, I saw, so I was looking at the projected ownership on Awesemo yesterday, like mid-afternoon, closer to lock. And yeah, even there for DraftKings, at least the projected ownership was double, a little bit more than double on Giannis than Harden and Westbrook. I don't know what it ended up being, but it was like 30 compared to mid-teens.
I would have ended up a little bit lighter on Giannis just because of that. But that's a look at yesterday. What we're really worried about is today. So please do me a favor. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so you know when we go live. Sal and I have got 6 games to dig into today. 6 o'clock lock. Live before lock will be coming up later today. Fast Eddie Fear and EMAC going at 5 p.m. Eastern for this slate. Sal, you ready to break on through these 6 games?
Oh, yeah.
All right, let's do it. First game up, and we're going to have a lot to talk about here. Denver Nuggets, Minnesota Timberwolves. 12.5-point favorites at home for the Nugs. Denver looks to be at full strength. Minnesota, not so much. No Karl Anthony Towns, as we know, but D'Angelo Russell also sitting out for rest today. We are going to have to dig in quite a bit to Minnesota, but we'll start on the Denver side. Jokic, Murray, Barton, all in double digits in ownership on FanDuel. Murray being the lowest at 16%. On DraftKings, Murray doesn't get there. He's 7,700, but Paul Millsap at 4,500 is in double digits. We also see Barton and Jokic both again in the 20s. I like Jokic the most here. He is my number one play on the slate as of right now. There is no one on the Minnesota Timberwolves that can stop him. It's certainly not James Johnson or Naz Reid. If Jokic is motivated, he can dominate every single trip down the floor. I love getting to him. $49 on Yahoo looks really good as well. I really like the Jamal Murray price tag on FanDuel. I don't even mind 7,700 on DK. I think he's going a bit underrepresented. Will Barton feels a bit overowned. Paul Millsap does not feel overowned on DK, but I'm not really going to anybody else. What do you think of Denver for today?
Yeah, so the first thing that I noticed was just Paul Millsap's minutes coming back up and finally seeing something above the 20-minute mark. So I think the ownership that's coming in on him, I think it's justifiable, kind of like you were hinting at. But yeah, so Millsap stands out for me, at least if I put him, played 26 in the last one. If I put him around 25 or 26, he ends up looking good. Most of his shots are going to be coming at the rim at this point. He shoots about a quarter of his shots from three, so there's some upside there. So Millsap stands out. Barton, I agree with you. I don't like where the ownership is on it, but I understand where it's coming from. Just the issue for him is now with Murray back and Millsap seemingly back, just that takes away from assists and rebounding upside that Barton contributes to. Jokic playing as good as he has all season takes away from all those categories for Barton. So I think there's not as much consistency for him, and you've been seeing that, but at that price point, he can pay that off a good chunk of the time. So those are two of the guys that I think are appealing. And then, yeah, Jokic is the guy that I end up liking the most here. I mean, it's just ridiculous what this guy can do. You're going to be going up against Naz Reid today and James Johnson and whoever else after that point, probably just those two. But, yeah, 35% assist percentage, 30% usage. Yeah, he's right now on a slate where there's just not a lot of studs. He's the only guy in the 10K plus range, and you have to just take into account like pure point upside at that point. So yeah, I think he stands out a lot.
Yeah, 22% owned on FanDuel, 25 on DK. I would just want significantly more than that.
And it's so just easy to get there. I mean, There's a ton of value, one, but two, there's what isn't the drop off like Zach LaVine after him price wise today? DraftKings at least.
Let me look. Whiteside, it goes Jokic, Whiteside, Beal, LaVine. Whiteside 9,700, Beal 96, and then LaVine is fourth at 91. So, and you are getting a very different player in Jokic than for an extra $1,000. Jokic, the only guy I have projected north of 50 DK points.
Same, yeah. He stands out. That just the pure point upside at this point really matters too.
Yeah, this is second highest implied total on the slate. Pace up spot for Denver, and no center defense to be found. This is just, I mean, Jokic might end up with 25 rebounds if he really wants, like, if he wants to be on that sort of game.
Yeah. I guess the only, like, downside is the 14-point spread if you think he leaves after 3.5 quarters. But at that point, again, if he's scoring 55 to 60 fantasy points at the price point he's at, it's built in.
Yeah. Be aware of Mason Plumlee, I guess, today, particularly on DK. That's going to be a tough sell on FanDuel. But if you think that Jokic is going to have any sort of reduction in minutes, Mason Plumlee is likely going to be the guy that just soaks up every single one of them. 3,400 on DK makes for an interesting play in a large field GPP.
I agree.
I'd say Jamal Murray, my favorite super draft play from Denver, 1.45 multiplier. I have him projected for 58 super draft points. He would be the top guy for me. Jokic does not have a multiplier. He is at just flat 1. Then we get into Minnesota. Boy, is this team gross. Let's start with the chalk. Naz Reid, 41% owned on FanDuel, 29 on DraftKings. But we also see Juancho Hernangomez close to 20. Jordan McLaughlin, 20% owned. He is my real dude that I think should be tops on the list here. Malik Beasley, right around 20% owned. You're going to have to get to some of these Minnesota guys. I like McLaughlin the most. I have him in for 32 minutes. I think he soaks up the large majority of the point guard share. He's a 1 fantasy point per minute guy. If anytime you can get somebody like that at 30 minutes plus at a 4K salary, to me it's a no-brainer. But it's going to be hard to avoid Malik Beasley. He's going to take every single shot he wants. I'm a little nervous about the chalk on Nas Reed 4,500 on FanDuel. I get it though. It's hard to get away from that sort of price tag, but he could be in for a pretty quick day if Jokic wants to body him up. How you handling Minnesota?
Yeah, so I think I ended up doing the same thing as you, just with no D'Angelo Russell. I feel more confident giving McLaughlin more minutes, Culver, Okogie, all those guys. And yeah, I put McLaughlin at 30 minutes right now, and he stands out as a really good play, just under 30 fantasy points for me. He's the guy I like the most relative to ownership. Naj Reid, I'm getting to right now. I'll see how much it's needed depending on the ownership, if that makes sense. He's at a price point that I think's appropriate, but you're probably not. You have upside at it, but when the ownership's in that, it kind of pulls it down. So, like if he goes for 30 tonight, it's not going to kill me if I don't have him. So I think he stands out. I'm Malik Beasley at 36 minutes tonight, fantasy point per minute producer in a definitely a tougher matchup, but should be the guy with the ball in his hands, maybe the most on this team. So he stands out. Those are the three. And then I'll be getting some probably smaller shares of Hernan Gomez and Culver, but nothing too much of them.
Yeah, no, that makes sense to me. Like I just see Nas Reed's minutes or his ownership at 41% right now. I see Eric Paschall $300 cheaper on FanDuel at just 23%. It's not that I don't like Nas Reed, but I would rather just flip-flop those two, especially with Draymond Green out for the Warriors, which we will get to. I think that's just sort of an easier play to make in a GPP, but clearly Nas Reed is very much in play. Just could be a tricky situation against Jokic. The $5,500 price tag on DraftKings makes it a little bit easier to shy away from Reed. Yeah, Jordan McLaughlin is my guy in this one, though. Yeah. He's just too cheap.
Yeah, I have McLaughlin right now as my second play overall on the slate, 4,300 on DraftKings. And then, Naj Reid, power forward, makes him probably bumps up the ownership on DraftKings a little bit. But, yeah, he ranks out as like my 20th play right now. Just projecting him for around 30 fantasy points at that price point is not great.
No. Malik Beasley could have anywhere from 20 to 60 fantasy points today, it feels like. It's just he's going to do whatever he wants. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. You probably don't need a steady diet of Will Barton and Gary Harris and Torrey Craig and guys like that just D'ing you up for however many minutes you're out there. I like Malik Beasley, but when you have to be the focal point of the offense, things might look a little bit trickier. That said, 20% ownership, not a problem.
Yeah, I mean, just the upside for him is that he's probably going to shoot the ball like 25 times today. Right. So he could be as ineffective as possible. Like as long as he's hitting 40, 35, 40% of his shots today, he should be fine for you. And then, there's the huge ceiling on it because of the volume if he's just above average efficiency.
Favorite play in this game?
McLaughlin.
Okay. Yeah, I agree. Him and Jokic for me coming out of this one.
Yeah.
Anything else here?
No, that's all for me.
Cool. Toronto Raptors, Indiana Pacers. Raptors 5-point favorites at home against those Pacers. Seems like everything is good to go in this game, save for, doesn't look like we're going to see Victor Oladipo today. He is listed as questionable. He's been mentioned more like doubtful. I assume that he is not going to see the floor, so I did not project him in. Could start on the Toronto side. Tale of two sites. Siakam, Lowry, Van Vliet, Serge Ibaka, all 20% owned on FanDuel. They are all significantly less so on DK. Siakam and Lowry both in single digits. Van Vliet and Ibaka at 10 and 17 respectively. I don't have a ton of interest in these guys on DraftKings. Ibaka, my highest ranked guy at 37th, but I definitely want some Pascal Siakam at 8,400 on FanDuel. I definitely want some Kyle Lowry and some Fred Van Vliet, particularly Van Vliet at 6,500. It's a tough spot against Indiana. The defense is good, 4% better than average over their last 15 games. But I think these guys are just too cheap for the amount of minutes that they play. How do you want to handle Toronto?
Yeah, so Toronto, you're just seeing them relatively. I mean, Norman Powell, Marcus All they're waiting on, but their starters are just cemented into big minutes because they're just healthier now with Lowry, Siakam, and Van Vliet. So I have all three of those guys at 36 minutes. I have Ibaka at 30 and OG at 32. So there's just not a lot of minutes off the bench. Now things can happen, of course, foul trouble, but that just makes the rotation less appealing for me. It makes really Siakam, Lowry, Van Vliet, Ibaka, all of them just look like very average plays to me. Like I'll get to some. The guy that I probably like the most just because of price is OG, but I think there's just going to end up being better value, like we just talked about in Minnesota. I expect to probably get the most OG, then Ibaka, just based on positions and price. All those other guys, though, I want to have a couple of shares of Siakam, Lowry, and Van Vliet because all median projection-wise, they're just going to grade out as very average plays. But they obviously pull from each other. So if one's going to have a better game, I want to have at least some shares.
For sure. They are tricky. I hate when I see, like, I always just want one of those guys to stand out so I can just feel a little bit better about taking a stand instead of splitting it and just assuming that one of them's going to not be all that awesome. But $6,500 for Van Vliet just seems way too cheap. $1,100 more expensive on DraftKings. That is wild.
Wild. They're all more appealing on right now FanDuel. And just this game in general is because I think they're just all appropriately priced. Siakam in the 9K range on DraftKings, Lowry 8K plus, and Van Vliet at 76. It's just, I'll have a couple of shares, probably like single digit ownership to all of them.
Okay. Any OG Anunoby interest? Getting no ownership whatsoever.
Yeah, I think he's the guy that I like. If I was to get like 4 or 5% of all those guys right now, I think he would be the one to spike a little bit more just due to price. I have him in for 32 minutes, and if I do that at 30, he doesn't really look like anything that I want to get to too much. At 32, looks like a player that I'd get to a good amount. Projects for like 24 fantasy points.
On the Indiana side, again, looks like Victor Oladipo is not going to be in. That's a tricky one. There's not a lot that I like here. Sabonis for 8K on FanDuel for sure. Count me in. He's $9,800, $1,800 more expensive on DraftKings. Feel free to ignore that one. Like Brogdon looks okay on FanDuel. Warren looks okay on FanDuel. Jeremy Lamb for 4,200 is my favorite FanDuel play that isn't Sabonis. And then I like Lamb quite a bit for 4,800 on DK. Not getting any love. I expect his minutes to tick up if Oladipo is out. How are you handling the Pacers?
Yeah, so at least DraftKings wise, it's a little bit interesting, I guess. So Sumner is questionable. Like if he doesn't play, that's 10 more minutes to probably go around for probably more so Aaron Holiday, maybe some TJ McConnell. So I ended up just not giving him any minutes right now with the questionable tag. I ended up giving more of those to Aaron Holiday and McConnell. So it makes them both look like not great values, like grading out for like 17 fantasy points apiece, but it's your 5x, 5.3x value. So I think they at least look somewhat intriguing from a GPP value perspective at flat minimum for Aaron Holiday, 33 for McConnell, but nothing that I have a ton of interest in. I think the one that I would probably get to the most on DraftKings is just Miles Turner at 5K flat, have him at 30 minutes. Looks okay, but center eligible is usually the guy, like he's the definition of the guy I usually think looks great and just never get to all that much because of only being a center and Jokic on the slate we like and some of the guys from Minnesota. So I rank it right now as Turner, Brogdon, on DraftKings, Turner, Brogdon, then like McConnell, but not much interest here.
Okay. Yeah, it's a tough one. And I'm with you on the Miles Turner love. This dude at 5K, I pretty much have him as like a decent value option on DraftKings every day, but he's been so bad this year. It's really... I'm anxious to see what Indiana does in the offseason, whether they try to offload him and what they can get back for him, given the value of centers nowadays. It's going to be tough, I think, but there's got to be some upside there. That's not part of DFS, though. That's more regular.
Yeah, I was just curious because I'm pulling up like what he's owed. He's
got a healthy amount for like 3 more years, I believe.
Yeah, he's making $18 million a year until the 2022 season.
Yeah,
and then
no, that's what do you do? What do you do? How good have they been with both of those guys on this year?
That's a good question.
Check it out. I mean, I assume good, but now I just kind of want to know. So, Indiana lineups. So, for the season, they are plus 2.7 just in general.
Okay.
If Sabonis is on and Miles Turner is on, they have been plus 3.2, so just slightly better when both guys are on. Although their main lineup, Brogdon, Lamb, Warren, Sabonis, Turner, plus 10 this season. If you want to swap out Brogdon for Aaron Holiday, plus 7.5. So I guess it's working, but you probably want that fit to be a little bit better than it is.
Yeah. I guess it looks half decent. It just doesn't like, at least fantasy wise, it doesn't.
No, not at all. Not at all. All right, let's keep it moving. Actually, favorite player in this game, Raptors or Pacers?
Man, yeah. So I'll take it from a DraftKings perspective.
Sure.
The game in general doesn't look great. I guess I'll go. I guess I'll go Miles Turner, but they're just all kind of there for me.
I don't. I get that sentiment on DraftKings as well. On FanDuel, give me some bonus 8K, just too cheap. Chicago Bulls, Washington Wizards. Bulls 1-point favorites at home. This team, there's too many dudes on the Bulls at this point to try to manage. Like I guess it's possible that Wendell Carter could play today. Maybe I don't know how to handle that. Luke Cornett didn't play yesterday for a sprained ankle. I think that he can play today. I have no idea. No Hutch, no Denzel Valentine. Obviously, no Chris Dunn, no Lauri Markkanen. So let's just start on the Bulls side. A bit of a pace-up spot for them. 9,500 for Zach LaVine on FanDuel, 9,100 on DraftKings. He is by far the guy that I like the most coming out of Chicago. 1.3x multiplier on SuperDraft, very appealing as well. After that, to me, it's just sort of filler. I'll get a couple shares of Thad Young, Satoransky, Kobe White, maybe Daniel Gafford, 3,500 on DraftKings. But LaVine is the only guy that I would get to with any sort of volume. Talk to me about the Bulls.
Yeah, so LaVine's the guy that I like the most too right now at this point. I have him in for just 36 minutes. You're ending up getting him in just the best possible defensive matchup. 22% usage guy, 32% or 32% usage, 22% assists. He's a guy I like the most from an upside point. Outside of, he's probably my favorite quote unquote pay up option outside of Jokic right now on the slate. But I didn't project Cornette and all those other guys for minutes. So that's where it just starts to get wonky with Felicio and Gafford at center. They both end up looking like good options today. 3,500 for Gafford, having projected for pretty much like 23 fantasy points flat. And Cristiano Felicio I have for like 19 and change 20 fantasy points at 3,200 because there's just not a lot of minutes left to go around. So I guess that would come down to, I like both of them. I guess if Cornette's out, I guess that would come down to if one of them's more wildly owned. I'll take Gafford over Felicio right now. And then I do like Kobe White, have him in for 30 minutes at 5,200. So I'd rank this team as, it's really tough with all these injuries, but LaVine, White, Gafford, and then like I have shares of Satoransky and Thad Young as of right now too.
Oh God, I really hate rostering Bulls. I feel like I get let down every single time that I do it.
Yeah, there's just, I assume we're going to get updates on these injuries in like 2 or 3 hours, but if they're all out, both of their centers are in the 3K range, and one of them is going to play 24, both probably around 22 to 24 minutes. One might play more, so I'll probably have a good amount of both.
Speaking of teams with multiple centers that you don't know how to hash out, the Washington Wizards. I gave Thomas Bryant, Mo Wagner, and Jan Mahinmi all 16 minutes because I don't know what else to do with these idiots. But I don't think that it matters. There's not any ownership coming in to this team outside of Bradley Beal. 19% owned on FanDuel, 10% owned on DraftKings. I'm going to sneeze. Talk to me about the Wizards.
Yeah, so from Washington right now, the ownership now coming in on it makes sense from like a median projection standpoint and where that's just affecting the ownership because Bradley Beal's up to 9,600 right now. He's been playing literally 34 minutes on the nose for like the last 5 games apiece. So even if I put him at 35, just at the price point, he just doesn't grade out that great. But from GPP perspective, I'll get there because the ownership won't be there. And we know that he has a ceiling and can play 38 minutes. So I think he's appealing in GPPs, but median projection probably doesn't look as great. The guy, so from you were saying you had 16 minutes on all of them. Yeah, I have Thomas Bryant at 18, Mo Wagner at 18, and Mahinmi at 16. It doesn't do anything for any of them.
Yeah.
It's just really, this team's just really gross because you have Beal playing normal to big minutes. You have Rui and Ish pretty much playing around 30, and then everybody else is playing like in the high teens, low 20s. So it just makes them all unappealing. So I'd get to some Beal. And then after that, I think Ish Smith is probably my favorite guy from a median projection standpoint. I have him at 29 minutes, like a 0.85 fantasy point per minute producer, grades out for like 26 fantasy points.
Yeah, we're on the same page here. You can't ignore Beal, especially 9,200 on FanDuel, but he's my 6th ranked shooting guard, so it's not like I'm going to be getting a ton. 19% ownership on FanDuel seems about right. Ish would be the guy I'd want to take a shot at. I actually like the 5K price tag on DraftKings, more than 4,800 on FanDuel, and then I'm good on the rest of these guys. I don't need Rui or Bertans, and after that, it's just a bunch of like 15 to 20 minute guys, and that's not really what I'm looking for.
So are you assuming then, I guess it doesn't matter just the way the minutes are being split up, that Mahimney's going to start at center?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm doing the exact same thing. So I guess the only difference would be if you got Brian or Mo Wagner starting at center, then obviously take a different approach there.
Yeah, one of those centers can get there. Like if we find out that Thomas Bryant is starting for 4K on FanDuel against the Bulls, I'm interested. Or even if Mo Wagner ended up starting for some reason, like those guys are fine, but as of right now, it just looks like it's 3 guys splitting 48 minutes, maybe 50 minutes total.
Yep.
All right, 3 games up, 3 games down. Perfect opportunity for everybody to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so you know when we go live. It is a Sunday, so it's mildly limited, but you do get Live Before Lock with Fast Steady Fear and EMAC at 5 p.m. Eastern Time, giving you the best NBA DFS takes that you can find in the hour up until lock. And then we're back in business like normal tomorrow. Lofty and I again on the strategy show. I don't have to eat anything, thank God. We can review mustache bet. I'm at like 90% likelihood to get the mustache, so I think one more additional loss on the road for the Sixers is going to remove most of the hair from my face, but that's okay. I'm ready to go get pampered. There's a nice shave spot for men in Wilmington. Gonna go get some warm towels, some essential oils, just relax, maybe a shoulder massage. It's great.
Oh, that's great.
I'm not even mad about losing this bet.
That's fantastic. Yeah.
It's so much better than that hot chip.
That is a spin zone for the ages right there.
Yeah.
That's good.
The only problem is that my wife will not find me attractive in any way, shape, or form until all of this comes back.
Yeah, it's a downside. You're gonna have to draw one on. You should try and just make the most of this and get some sort of press coverage on the Sixers. Maybe you can get it all the way up to actually you being the reason that they're motivated to win.
Oh God. What's going to be really awful is that I'm going to shave it off before I officially lose the bet, and then they are going to win out.
Right.
It's going to be not fun for me. Yeah, Anthony Marcus says, Laffy winning bets left and right. Yeah. Great.
He's on a hot streak.
I mean, the Sixers' road record is unprecedented for a team of that quality. Like they are staggeringly bad on the road this year. They're probably like 7 or 8 wins behind their expected win total just for road games. Ugh. Yeah, Mike Campbell with a good one. How does she find you attractive now? She doesn't. That's fair. She's not always on vacay. She travels for work. She took one vacation. She went to Aruba. I don't blame her. I would have went to Aruba without me too.
Well, that sounds nice.
But yeah, she probably doesn't find me attractive. That's a fair point. Oklahoma City Thunder, San Antonio Spurs. Thunder are 5-point favorites at home. Spurs 108.25 implied total, third lowest on the slate. We'll start on the Oklahoma City side. Ownership is all over the place. Schroeder on DraftKings at 15%. Gallo is in the 20s on both sites. SGA double digits on both sites. Chris Paul is 7,500 on FanDuel, 25% owned. 8,200 on DraftKings, just 9% owned. I like the Chris Paul $31 price on Yahoo. I don't know what I'm going to be doing here. I would say that I like Chris Paul on FanDuel most, with Schroeder on DK being second, but I rarely get just one guy unless it's usually SGA. This just feels like a game where I'm going to cast a pretty wide net across the Thunder starters plus Schroeder. How do you feel about OKC?
Yeah, I think that's probably on DraftKings at least how I'm feeling right now. So if Schroeder ends up playing, I'll probably end up liking him the most. I have him at 31 minutes. It just looks the best median-wise out of that. But yeah, then SGA. Chris Paul is probably the one I would get to the least, but if he's not going to pick up ownership, it changes that a little bit. But just the price point is wide enough now away from SGA by 1,100 that I'll probably get the Schroeder, SGA, and Paul out of those guards in their backcourt, and then I get some shares of Gallinari, and Adams at this point probably won't get there just because of the price point that he's at plus center only. So the way that I rank it is Schroeder, SGA, Paul, and then Gallo on DraftKings. And I think they're all appropriately priced. The one who's probably underpriced the most is Schroeder.
We are on the same page there. I have him ranked 13th overall, so I like it.
Yeah, he definitely looks good. And his usage just remains insane. It's just a matter of if he plays like 28 to 32 minutes, what's the difference there? So at 31, he's been around there as of late. It looks pretty good.
Yeah, I have him in for 30 right now, but he has been playing really well. 1.07 FanDuel points per minute over his last 30 days. That is a full tenth of a point higher than my baseline for him. So always interested to catch somebody like that because it doesn't seem like the price is all that wild, even though he has been playing better.
Yeah, and I'm just looking at his shot chart. He's so balanced. Like he shoots a third of his shots from three, 25 from mid range, and a third from at the rim. Yeah, it just looks good.
Then we slide on over to the San Antonio Spurs, where to me it's just two guys, as it usually is. DeMar DeRozan, LaMarcus Aldridge. I greatly prefer DeRozan to Aldridge on both sites. They're both owned in the teens. DeRozan would be the guy I would get to significantly more than Aldridge. He stunk the last time that I played for him. But yeah, I don't really get to the Spurs all that often unless people are injured. Looks like they're going to be fully healthy. So a little bit of DeRozan, a little bit of Aldridge, and no other real interest for me.
Yeah, I like DeRozan a little bit more than Aldridge at this point, but they end up being close. I have him for just more minutes. I have him at 35, Aldridge at 34, so that's really the difference for the most part. What do you make of Trey Lyles in his minutes over the last week? You think there's anything to it? I don't know whether to project him at 28 or just keep giving him like 24, because at 28 he looks like a strong value at 3,900.
I gave him 26. You never know when he's just going to get bumped back down to 16 because they want to play somebody else. The thing is, he hasn't been playing very well. Like, I have him as a 0.9 guy as my baseline. He's at 0.77 over the last 30 days. So I'm not, like, for 3,900 on DraftKings, he is certainly worth a look. I have his target score at 35 fantasy points. Very easily get there, especially if the minutes stick around. But I think there are just easier places to find value than Trey Lyles today.
Yeah,
he's in my player pool, that's for sure.
Yeah, like if I put him at 28 minutes, he's like a right around like the 20th play for me. If I put him at 26, he's barely in the player pool. So, yeah, I agree with that. I think there's not as much upside to him in what you're paying for, at least right now. Is he going unowned? Because then I'll probably end up having some.
He's 5%.
Yeah, so I'm going to end up having some, which is not great right now. But, yeah, I think there's probably not the best ceiling on his value.
Okay. Anything else in Oklahoma City, San Antonio?
I think just DeJounte Murray's minutes have been wildly spiking into the 30s or right where they usually are, like 25. I have him in a player pool right now because there's just upside there.
Favorite play in this game? Is it Schroeder or DeRozan for you?
DeRozan.
Okay. To Golden State we go. Warriors 8-point underdogs at home against the Pels. Pels 123 implied total is the highest on the slate by quite a bit. Golden State going to be without Draymond Green in this one. This team is not very appealing to me outside of two spots. But Andrew Wiggins, 34% owned on FanDuel, 18% on DK. He's going to get all the looks he wants. Marquise Chris also questionable. That could really make things interesting. I don't know if Dragan Bender is going to get in. I'm sure our Twitter account will let you know. Eric Paschall, though, is the guy that stands out most to me. 4,200 on FanDuel, 4,400 on DraftKings. The DraftKings price in particular is really hard to ignore. He's 25 to 30% owned. I don't think that's really enough. Pascal's the guy I want the most. Shares of Damian Lee, shares of Chris if he plays are fine. I think Wiggins is probably a little over-owned, but this is a monster pace up spot for Golden State. How are you breaking down the Warriors?
Yeah, I really like Pascal's my number one play right now on the slate. I have him for 29.4 fantasy points at 4,400 and just one of the best matchups that he can find. So no Draymond, have him in the 30s of minutes, 32, 34, somewhere around there. So I like Pascal the most at this point. And then it's just a sea of guys depending on what happens with Marquise Chris. If I project Chris in, I think he looks fine. Give him 28 minutes, 6,200, looks good for this matchup. If he's out, then who knows how much run they give Looney at that point. You probably see some Allen. I can't even pronounce Smiley's last name at this point. I'm sure we're going to go. Yeah, that's what we're gonna go with. But yeah, so right now with Chris projected in, it's Pascal 1 for me, 2 Marquise Chris, 3 Jordan Poole.
Okay. Do you think Kai Bowman gets additional run to make him potentially viable? He's the flat min on FanDuel.
Yeah, I think he does. So he's in a player pool for me, just not much a priority. Let me pull. I gave him a decent amount of minutes at this point. I think I gave him 24 minutes.
Yeah, I gave him 24 as well. I don't think it's crazy for him to play like 28 to 30 in this spot, though. He's been oddly tied to Draymond Green in the past, and now with no D'Angelo Russell. I mean, we have a pretty big sample of Kai Bowman games without Draymond, and that has been the linchpin for them. So it wouldn't shock me if he got a little bit more. And at 3,500, I think it's probably worth a little bit of a shot, but he's also not very good.
Yeah, that's the issue. He's like a 0.7 guy at best at the late.
Yeah, I have him in at 0.79, and over the last 30 days, he's 0.72. So somewhere in that 3/4 of a point range.
Yeah, like I have him at 24 minutes. I have him for like 18 and a half fantasy points or somewhere in there. So yeah, I think there's upside, especially if he sees more minutes at the price point.
Yeah, let's talk 34% owned Andrew Wiggins on FanDuel. I think we need to touch on that. That is the most ownership that anybody on the Warriors is getting. That is actually the 5th highest owned player on FanDuel. How do you feel about that ownership number?
Yeah, what's his price point over there?
He's 7,800.
I'm just like I'm indifferent to him, so I guess I'm not with that ownership. Then I'd be half of it, probably, maybe a little bit less. Like on DraftKings, he doesn't look all that great, and then the price points aren't that different. So yeah, I'm not going to get there that much. He's barely cracking like 40 fantasy points for me at 8K. Just not the guy I want to get to. The matchup is as good as it gets, but like you're taking a shot on him when people are expecting him to just outproduce his median by a wide 30% range at that point. So yeah, I'd have like half to a third of that ownership on FanDuel.
I would rather just pay $600 more and get half of the ownership on Pascal Siakam.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they're going to project that. Like, yeah, exactly. Siakam looks similar in terms of point per dollar, but no ownership to it. Yeah.
Right. Let's go to the Pels side. Zion 30% owned on FanDuel. Lonzo 30% owned on FanDuel. Brandon Ingram at 17%. $8,300. He's only $6,900 on DK. 28% owned. I like that price tag quite a bit. Zion and Lonzo both just a hair over 10% owned. Lonzo on FanDuel is definitely my favorite Pelican. Zion a close second. On DraftKings, it's probably Brandon Ingram and Lonzo. But Zion Williamson, if you're playing on Super Draft tonight, and you should be, use that promo code Awesemo, get yourself some super cash. 1.55x multiplier for Zion. I project him for 60 there. He is the best play on Super Draft from this game. What do you like from the Pelicans?
Do they just keep doing that on Super Draft? I remember I've done like 2 shows now, and we were doing Super Draft, and he was like 1.6 the one time, and I think with Eddie like a week and a half ago, and he was the best play in the slate. Yeah, so right now, a lot of these Pelicans on DraftKings look similar, but Brandon Ingram does stand out. Like his minutes as of late, he left the one game early. He came back in a blowout, so I think people might underproject him. I put him at 34 minutes, and he ends up looking really good. My favorite play by a pretty wide margin on DraftKings for New Orleans, so I'll probably get the most of him. I put Favors at just 24 minutes. He looks okay, fine. And then shares of Zion, Drew, and Lonzo, and in the single digits for myself right now. I think Zion's price point finally getting to a spot where it's not just as easy to get to on DraftKings. The crazy thing, Zion's shooting 80, I mean, it makes sense, but 85% of his shots are coming just right at the rim, not even like outside the paint or just a couple steps away, literally like within 2 feet of the basket. So, I mean, that's good in terms of consistency, but the price point's there right now. I'll go Ingram, who still slightly leads this team in usage since Zion's been there, Favors, Holiday, and then Zion.
There we go. Wait, Ingram Favors, did you say?
Yeah.
Ooh, okay.
On DraftKings, I put Favors I put him at just 24 minutes today, and he stands out point per dollar slightly ahead of Drew and Zion. I might be projecting, so just the way that Drew's minutes have been lately, like you haven't seen the big 34, similar to what you're seeing at Alonzo and really Ingram. So I gave him 32, I think.
Same.
Yeah, and that's just making him a little bit less appealing.
Makes sense to me. Favorite play in this game on DraftKings?
Eric Pascal.
I would agree with you. On FanDuel, for me, it's Lonzo. Finally, we're closing it out. A lot of ownership coming in on this one. Portland Trail Blazers, Detroit Pistons. Blazers are 4.5-point favorites at home. They're also still without Damian Lillard. Get ready for these numbers. Hassan Whiteside, 61% owned on FanDuel at 9K, 31 on DraftKings. He's got CJ McCollum at 42% ownership on FanDuel, where he still has not been priced up. He's 7K. DraftKings got out in front there, 8,400, but still getting 20% ownership. And then we've got Melo, 5K on FanDuel, 5,600 on DraftKings. He's 38% owned on FanDuel, 26 on DK. Clearly, I like all three of those guys. Don't have a ton of interest in $9,700 Hassan Whiteside if he's already 30% owned. Like, I get it. He's good and all in this spot, but that's a lot of loot to pay when you can just pay $500 more and get Nikola Jokic. CJ on FanDuel for 7K is just silly. That's clearly my top FanDuel play. I'll still get to Melo. Probably have a little bit of Simons at 3,900. Well, walk me through your Portland stance for right now.
Yeah, so right now, I'm a little bit confused. So Whiteside's projected as the highest owned on DraftKings right now. And yeah, I would just rather get to Jokic, especially if he's going to come in 6 to 10% less owned at this point. Yeah, Whiteside at the price point, I get the upside there. The defensive matchup really probably couldn't get any better for him. So it makes sense, but I'll be below that 30% number by at least half right now, the way that it's looking and how much interest I have in Jokic and some of the other centers. So not as interested there. I think that they did a good job pricing up McCollum on DraftKings pretty quickly, but not all the way there yet. But I mean, you got the 50-point game it's definitely repeatable, but at that point you're paying for it. The ownership should be around there. So I'm fine getting to some McCollum. The guy I like the most is Melo. Just price point doesn't change on him all that much. I have him in for 33 minutes without Damian Lillard on the court this season. He's been like around a fantasy point per minute producer. So I'll just take that. He's my favorite play, the guy I expect to get the most out of. Gave Ariza another 35 minutes, gave Trent 34 and Simons 28. They all end up looking like serviceable values.
Yeah. I'll end up with way more Melo than I would like to, but 0.71 fantasy points per minute over his last 30 days. He's been terrible.
Yeah, that's brutal.
And then, like, there's nothing to say about CJ on FanDuel. Play as much as you want. There's no wrong amount. Like, 7K is just stupid.
Yeah,
it's stupid.
Yeah, that's bad.
He needs 40 right now. He needs 46 fantasy points to hit his target score in a GPP. I have him projected for 40.
Yeah, that sounds about good.
Yeah, he's gonna get there a lot of the time. So just play a lot of CJ. I would just rather make different decisions on FanDuel though at center. Like, I get that Jokic is $1,500 more expensive. I would rather have Jokic than Hassan Whiteside, especially at a third of the ownership.
Yeah, I'm with you there.
Just find the savings elsewhere. If you want Ariza, if you want Trent, if you want Simons, I get it. They're never going to be sexy plays, but they need to be looked at because they're just going to play a ton of minutes. And then finally, the Detroit Pistons dropping players like flies. Markieff Morris out the door. So we've got Christian Wood, 7,300 on FanDuel, 7,400 on DraftKings. Oh, by the way, CJ McCollum, 1.55x multiplier on SuperDraft. No doubt about it, best play in this game, although Christian Wood is close at 1.6. I like Wood here quite a bit. I have him in for 30 minutes. Could easily be more than that. 17% owned on FanDuel, 16 on DraftKings. I would absolutely have more. I don't know what's happening with Derrick Rose's minutes. Plus, this team is not very good, but I think this is still a pretty good spot for Rose. Mid-20s in ownership. He's a top 10-ish guy for me today. Like him a lot more on DraftKings at 5,900 than I do at FanDuel at 5,300. And after that, I'm just scared. I guess a little bit of Bruce Brown is fine. I don't know what they're going to do at power forward, but Sekou stinks. So he's 0.53 FanDuel points per minute over last 30 days for Sekou. Not closing out that rookie year all that well. This is pretty much just Wood and Rose for me. Where are you?
Yeah, so I like Wood and Rose. I try to go back to see because there's a blowout, so I don't know what to project really Rose at right now. I gave him 30 minutes, but It's the only game that Popcorn Machine doesn't have on there. They updated Friday and Saturdays, but not the Thursday return right now. So I'm not really sure where his minutes were in the first half. So I'm going to keep looking into it today. But at 30 minutes, he looks strong. Even if I give Derrick Rose today 28 minutes, he'll look strong. If I give him 26 minutes, I'll still have some. So I like Derrick Rose the most from this team. Christian Wood, you could just imagine that even if he's not going to start again, just no Markieff Morris now, even though he got the DNP last time, you can expect 30-plus minutes of play there. He's a guy I would get to the second most on DraftKings. Super Draft, where you said that multiplier looks like one of the best 3 or 4 on the entire slate. And then another guy that I would get to is probably Bruce Brown some. I think there's just a higher minute ceiling compared to Rose with the injuries. And right now I have him at 33 minutes. He just makes a player pool for me. Everything else not that great. I really don't want to get to Sekou or Svi, and I have them both grading out as okay values in the upper teens in fantasy points, but I just hate getting to both of those guys.
Whose minutes did you want?
Derrick Rose. So yeah, when I went to look at Popcorn Machine before the show, just the 20th games weren't up.
He played 13 minutes in the first half. Here's the link for Popcorn Machine. I could shoot you that if you want it.
Oh, you have it?
Oh yeah, of course I do.
Is it up there then? Did I just miss it?
No. Sam, I'm about to teach you a lesson here. You ready for this?
You're the man behind the Popcorn Machine.
So those games are always there, even if they're not listed. You just have to refigure the URL to get to it. They're all like, yeah, it's awful, but I just sent you a message on internal Slack with the link to the Pistons Milwaukee game.
Wow, this is amazing because earlier today let me look at this link.
So like it's not on the homepage. You would not see this. You have to change the date in the URL and change the team abbreviations in the URL, and then it'll go to it. It's always there, whether or not it's updated on the main page or not.
Wow. Yeah, because they didn't have either Friday or Saturdays up either earlier today, so I just scratched everything trying to look at minutes for rotations there. But
yeah,
I didn't know that. So yeah, you just
the more you know, man. There you go.
So everything stays the same except the date, and then you just change the end team?
Yep. So you swap out the date to whatever the date of the game was, and then you put them into their 3-digit or their 3-letter acronym. I don't remember.
So you just noticed that one day from the other ones?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's good. So I guess then is that concerning to you then that he played just 13 first half minutes? I mean, he's had 3 more days to rest since then.
I put him in for 26 in this one. Okay. So at that point, he's fine. I think it's more likely that he plays more than plays less, unless something goes wrong in this game. Like I think that his median outcome will end up being slightly more. They just don't have enough bodies. It all depends how much they want to play Brandon Knight and Jordan Bone and the rest of these idiots. You can't not play Derrick Rose, though. I mean, he's going to have like a mid-30s usage rate for this team.
Yeah, exactly. He's like a 1.3 guy with all these guys out of there. I think, if I'll put him at 28, he'll still grade out for like 32 plus fantasy points.
Favorite play from the Pistons side?
Derrick Rose.
Okay. That would be Wood for me. Favorite play in this game?
Favorite play in the game is probably Melo.
Okay. I will still go with Christian Wood. But that's 6 games up and 6 games down. Let's sum it up. Favorite plays on DraftKings for tonight?
Yeah, so on DraftKings, I think both Pascal and McLaughlin look like very strong value options. Carmelo Anthony, Nikola Jokic, Zach LaVine, Derrick Rose, Brandon Ingram, and keep an eye on what happens with just Chicago injury news. If all those same guys are out, then Daniel Gafford and Felicio are both pretty good options.
There you go. On FanDuel, point guard is loaded. Jordan McLaughlin is the guy you want if you want to pay down. After that, Lonzo Ball, Jamal Murray, Chris Paul all look pretty good. Shooting guard, CJ McCollum is a no-brainer. Zach LaVine, probably my number 2. Keep a close eye on Malik Beasley at 5,200. Small forward is a wasteland. Carmelo Anthony at 5K is going to be pretty popular for me. And after that, I think you're just sort of mixing and matching. Siakam would be my number 2, but everybody is bunched in together. At power forward, Christian Wood, Eric Paschall, Zion Williamson, and then at center, Nikola Jokic, numero uno. I like Whiteside, but 60% ownership is scary. Marquise Chris, if he is in, 5,700 looks like that would work. Guys, please hit that like button. That would help us out a ton. 500 people in here, only 75 likes. Let's at least get that number north of 100 before we get out of here. As I mentioned earlier, we will be having the Live Before Lock show tonight, 5 p.m. Eastern. Fast Eddie Fear and EMAC breaking it down up until 6. And then that is just it. Go to superdraft.io and use that promo code Awesemo. Get yourself some super cash. It is the new way to play. No salaries, just multipliers. You could roster anybody you want. It's a great mechanism. We've got super draft projections on the site if you're looking to check it out. Just go to awesemo.com/join. Use the promo code NBA strategy. One big word. Get yourself 50% off your first week. Ask and you shall receive. 105 likes. I greatly appreciate it. Sal, anything else?
No, that's it. Best of luck, everybody. Enjoy your Sunday, your golf, your XFL, and your PGA. Is there spring training baseball today? I didn't even know that started until somebody mentioned it yesterday.
You are asking the wrong guy.
There is a 4-game spring training baseball slate today for a $1,000 prize pool to first.
Oh my! There's DFS contests?
Well, no. Yesterday, somebody reached out to me on Twitter. It was like, "Are you covering baseball today?" And I was like, "What's this guy talking about?" Yeah. I had no idea that spring training started, but I guess yesterday was the start of spring training. I just started looking into just like the teams, and I didn't even look at the prize pools. I'm not covering it or playing it, but yeah, 1K to first is the big one.
Best of luck on any spring training endeavors. This has been the NBA DFS Strategy Show presented by Super Draft. Best of luck today. I'll talk to you guys again in the morning. Later on.